Hard times build character.
This isn't just a show, this is real life. It's not about how you start, it's about how you finish.
You gotta see it before anyone else can see it.
Every second, every minute, every day.
We train for life. We got you.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Relentless Way podcast, season number 4, episode number 2, Homegrown Leadership. We are here for a second time with Coach Evan Van Arsdale, joining us in our Relentless Bradley location, our satellite location at 301 Main Street in Bradley Beach, New Jersey. And obviously, Paul Alvier, here with my longtime buddy, Matt Strout, and partner at Relentless Fitness and Training. So those who continue to listen from our community, from our network, we really appreciate the support, number one, but we also appreciate that you're getting your ears on what we're saying, and you're tuning in and listening and giving us feedback, most importantly. Not for us to get better, but for all of us to help each other get better, because that feedback gives us ideas, gives us information of different topics, different guests, right? We've been having many sit-downs with avid listeners to get as much feedback as we can from them, so then we could better this service that we're delivering to our community. We don't look at this fully as this isn't a monetary driven show. It's not something that we're looking to break the bank with and get on all these outlets and make money off of. We're looking to bring this as more added value to what we deliver within the Relentless movement and the Relentless Way. So, Coach Evan back here today. How does it feel second time around? You're one of the few that have been on this show 2 times.
I'm pumped. I'm excited to be back and speak a little more, talk a little more about my own journey, my own process of things, and my growth even from the time I was on to now.
Yeah, we were talking about that yesterday. As far as the time, I think it was almost close to just over a year, right? It was like last July.
Yeah, last July. Yep.
That you were on with us. We looked back at the archives, and the first episode we chatted obviously a lot about Evan, but I think the topic was just him becoming a coach. For how many years? What year did you start? Was your first year that you were a Relentless coach?
2020 was official.
So officially 2020, first full year. But you became a coach before we went into the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
So like
early.
You started getting going like right before, I think, and then because you went through all that with us on the squad, and then it really firmed up, and you were able to hit the ground running when we came out of it.
Yeah, you guys gave me a few people in the beginning to get conditioned and feel it out, and then we were live by January.
So almost a full 3 years, if you think about it, that he's been a coach, right?
Yep.
And we've seen tons of growth from over those 3 years, but also, as Matt could highlight and tell us more about is how that's just not when Evan's journey started. Evan's journey stared way before then.
Well, right. I was going to highlight the beautiful title of the Homegrown Leadership, because that's really where I think it all started. That is when he put the shirt on, with the name on the back, coach, that we hold such a high standard for. But before that, him starting out as a young man, between the ages of like 12 and 13 is when he started being in the facility on a daily basis. And that's really where it started. Looking back for Paul and myself, I think that's also a time where we realize how important the power of influence, which is the simple side, but leadership is a whole other side. So influence is something that's just going to be taken in by the people that are around you. So, having him around constantly, he was with us all day long. So whether we were busy, not busy, up, down, but what it did in that moment was it leveled up our standard for us to always be on point, because, with the things with this mission that we're on, there's always something to do, whether it's organizing, cleaning, or delivering a product or trying to grow the product. So he really got a good grasp of all the different hats that we wear, and he kind of got a feeling for all those things as a young man. And, looking back, it started with just influence, and then it turned into leadership from us actually leading him and putting him in position to have different experiences, to allow him to mess up, but to then have us sit down and build off of them. And it's cool now, obviously, because, you know, as he speaks more, you're going to see. If you haven't gone back and listened to the first one, you should. And then listen to the man that he is today, even. And, you know, we talk, he's still a 20-year-old, you know, man that's evolving day in and day out. But from where we met him to the last show, until now, it's been drastic leaps and jumps to who he is. So,
well, you also talk about the experience inside of you know, just the journey, learning from us and learning from being in the facility. Evan, what would you say is a couple of the things that you've learned from your experiences that you've been able to bring into the process now, bringing other coaches in, so adding to our hiring process and adding to our onboarding process?
So getting people in, I think one of the things that I related with the coaches coming in was like the floor, for example. I think that's a big one where sometimes we first get out there and it's very like nerve-wracking, you're unsure, you're not really, you want to correct this person or speak to this person about the movement or their program, but sometimes you're just afraid to overstep.
Right.
But the truth is that that's what we do.
That's where
we are stepping in and taking lead. I'll say one thing too. There was an example where I remember you had a program you wrote for somebody, and I looked at it, and I knew a couple things, but I didn't know like two of them, right? And I could have like tried to make it work and just figured it out, but I was like, let me just be honest. I was like, listen, I don't really know the answer. I don't know exactly what this is.
Right.
Let me call Paul just to confirm and make sure.
Right.
And that was something that just transparency, just being honest with the member and being like, listen, I really don't know exactly what this is. Let me just confirm.
And it's like any other business or any other service that's going on, right? If you're out to eat at a restaurant, no one wants to hear like, they want to hear the correct answer. They want to hear the solution. They want to know that the best is being delivered to them, right? If it's like, oh, you know, we don't have the pork chop tonight, and then they find out later that you did have it, but you just weren't informed. Instead, you could say, hey, let me go check back with the manager, or let me go check back with one of my teammates and make sure that that's right. You know,
shows high level communication as a team.
And now that being said, now how has that evolved in its own, right? So now I know you don't operate in that way, in a good way. I know now it's like you have small solutions for them, like we're going to do this program this way. You know, we're going to do this movement this way, but I'm going to check on it still, but this is still safe and effective and efficient for you, but I'm going to double check, right? Like now I feel like, you correct me if I'm wrong, but you have also the feeling of that authority to also be able to adjust things because of your knowledge and growth in those moments, right? Yeah, growth in the moments, growth in my own personal knowledge of just being exposed to those programs over and over again and seeing the content and getting used to it and knowing how to regurgitate and deliver back out. Yeah, and it's huge because it is one of the top things that we see, right? When we bring someone new on the team, is the confidence could be great through the hiring process, those 4 weeks, those 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever it may take. Also through the growth or / probationary period that we bring these coaches through as they're growing. By the way, you know, I think we have a team of 11 or 12 coaches now. 12 now, I think officially. 12, yeah.
Well, including all of us.
Yeah, 12 coaches. So it's a solid squad, you know. But everyone has strengths and everyone has weaknesses or things that they want to get better at. But I feel like, you know, more than ever on the service end and on the front end, that is, Evan hit the nail on the head with that. That is something that we see more and more. And maybe we didn't recognize them because we were all so much in it. And going after it, and things change over time, you know. What else do you feel like from some of your, you know, gentle experiences that you see in the hiring process or training process of these new coaches?
I think one of them I'll highlight is going on like one-on-one training to tap into that a little bit. I mean, we all know how it works, and you know the process of what you do for. Actually, you know what? I think one-on-one training, but more importantly, more specifically, lead. Like someone coming in for their first time. Yep. I think that's so like, one, it's very, very important how you approach the person.
Similar world though, because you're meeting them one-on-one.
Yeah, right? Yeah, exactly. Same interaction, but it's someone walking in for their first time ever, and you want to just, it's pressure sometimes. It's a lot of pressure. You're like, I don't want to say something wrong or don't do the right thing because this is their first experience. So I think that's something that we rinse and repeat a lot and just get everybody prepped and ready, especially when it's your first 3, 4, 5 leads. It can be stressful. So why not build the tool set and make it a very simple and easy interaction?
Matt and I were actually having a similar conversation the other day, talking about how, like, just the hiring process in general. And one thing that we kind of put our finger on was the fact of no matter how eager, which we respect, a new coach is, someone new on the team, no matter how excited they are, how much they need to make money right away, how much they want a new client, right? That how important it is to hold off and be intentful of the people that we're putting in front of them for one-on-one situations, or even new leads in the first 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, right?
Yep.
Letting them now cross that line to be a coach, and then start having those experiences and seeing it on the other side before we actually put someone right in front of them.
Something that is a cool experience too that gets you used to that is, let's say the floor is quiet one day and it just kind of happens organically. Let's say you're working out, I'm on the floor, we can have an awesome interaction for an hour because you're really just getting a one-on-one session. So I think that's something that a new coach as well is going to experience and also just kind of get the rep in. It wasn't planned. Oh, there's one person here. Okay, cool. And you just deliver.
Right.
Yeah, I think the processes and procedures that we have created that we're talking about over the past 6 months to a year now are really coming to a head in a sense of being upheld to that standard. And I think a proud thing that we see now more than ever is the standard at which the brand is operating at. So from the member standpoint as well as the coach standpoint, this industry can be looked at a lot of different ways, you know, and I think what we've done is we've really have analyzed it from the perspective of the person receiving the service and on the other end of the career opportunity at which we deliver the service. And I think the standard at which we are operating of what a relentless coach is, how he or she holds themselves and carries themselves, and how you connect those personal and professional worlds together to be a leader. It's not just when you put your shirt on. It's all the time. It's a lifestyle of leadership and self-care first to then lead others. Right. And I think now more than ever, we are upholding that standard. So we're 12 deep at that level. You know, they always say you're only as strong as your weakest link, and our weakest link is strong right now, right? Because we're all running we're all rowing the same direction and in this boat right now. So I think the cool thing is it's a felt thing now. It's like a tangible, the culture's like thick, you know, and I think that's a very proud thing because it's been homegrown, right? To go back to that, it's been homegrown organically first from just Paul and myself trying to figure this whole thing out of what we are creating and how we're going to create it, because we knew what we wanted, but we didn't know how we were going to officially get it, right? But I think now it's seen, it's understood of what the things that we needed in place, which now we have, and now it's consistent dedication and discipline to those standards that we have, and not letting, like we said earlier, not letting that ever be faltered in any way. So us protecting the line and us protecting the line that we've drawn in the sand. So like Paul said, like making sure that we have certain levels that new coaches can only be a part of, so that experience is never tainted by our people. So we give the coach the experiences to make sure that they are built for this, but at the same time, don't diminish the product that's being received. So I think that's the line we're walking right now, the best that we've ever had of understanding that.
It's an interesting roller coaster effect too, that kind of journey we've been through when we speak upon the coaches and just developing as a relentless coach, because it's the most challenging part from our end as leaders, from especially Matt and I, is you initially, in the beginning, you don't have to focus on that as much because it's so natural, because we're in there 24/7, 365. We're inside the doors. We're inside the facilities. We're side by side. We're in the trenches 99.9% of the time, right? So what that does, the effect that has is that, and then the homegrown effect, right? With Evan, the effect that I had on him is that he had no other choice but to be influenced by us every single day, right? Like he was next to us. He did have a choice to show up. He listened to us, he absorbed it, he heard the good things, he heard the bad things, and he learned from our mistakes, right?
Yep.
Challenging part now is the beautiful thing we do, we have Evan, someone like Evan that's in the trenches more so, but as we were speaking on pre-show is the moments in the last year or two of Matt and I working on the business just as much as in the business, or I'm sorry, you know, leveling that seesaw out, you know. In the past, if we were in the business 75% of the time and really stepping away and working on it, the other 25% of the work we're putting in, now it's like almost like 50-50, you know. Like, yeah, we've capped our clients out, we take our clients, but we're spending so much more time going and pulling and reaching out and connecting with people to, again, continue to feed the growth of our team.
Yep.
As well as we've really recognized over the last year how important it is to us still keep tabs on that on the business energy, having moments like this with our team, right? Whether it be the podcast, whether it be just a meeting, right? Going out on ventures with certain team members. The other day we had a coach that was wanted to explore something similar to our Bradley satellite location. Not the direct model of it, but something similar to working in another township. So we went out there with her and we went through that experience with her, and that's important, right? For us not to just say, hey, you go out, we'll be home, you let us know what goes on. No, we're going to take that ride, we're going to take that trip. We might not be in the facility from into the wee hours of the night every day like we used to be, but now it's other coaches' times to experience that, and with great power comes great success and great respect too, and that's what Evan's going through now, being in the forefront as well as our other coaches. That my next question, kind of, or thing that I want to hear you talk about because you do a lot. Doesn't have to be specifically, but how do you feel that? What are you starting to see now? And it's okay, we're perfectly fine with it, that you're seeing. Do you see other coaches inside the facility start to almost like following your footsteps now? And like, it doesn't have to be like groundbreaking stuff, but like, do you see certain things that's like rubbing off on them and positive things that you're being able to give off to them?
100%.
Don't say no. No, I'm just kidding.
I say 100% because now it's a really cool thing that I can do now where, the nighttime, you guys, that transition happens where you guys go and I'm going to be there. And that night hours are sick because I'm the person to go to. Right? So there's moments where something might happen on the floor, or there's a question, and like I just said before, where it's like that call, I'm there.
Right.
So I'm able to handle the situation there. So it's a fun opportunity.
Now you're the call, right? So he said earlier he used to make the call. Now the team, he is the call, right?
Yes.
So just to clarify that. And he's live in action. And when there's an unknown experience taking place, and our younger coaches that are growing, when they don't know what to do, they know to go to him. And that is an amazing, beautiful thing for Paul and myself to feel as well.
And that's all I want to be, because you guys were that for me for so long, and you still are. But especially in those moments, like in the live action of it, I want to be the person that you're going to go to. So that was cool. And I think also, to go back to your question too, like someone that's coming up and following in the footsteps, quote unquote. There's many. I've seen some moments of, I'll use Brian as an example. It's cool because I'm listening a lot, even in my sessions, and I can hear Brian speaking and coaching in a certain way, and I know I've either said those things or done those things, and it's even funnier because guess where I got it from, right? It's you guys, it just passes down, and it's not getting diluted, it's just staying true.
It's the culture, and we reference it a lot of, and obviously within our own world, but when we talk about culture and competition, it's a lot in the competition world, the competitive world, and unfortunately lately the conversation is that I've been having a lot with people is like, I'm a big avid Yankee fan, right? But I don't just follow it because of the wins, because to watch teams play well. I follow it to learn. I follow it to grow. And they've lost that, right? And I was talking about the other day, that's something that, how do you get that back, or how do you bring that back around? It takes a group of people. It takes a select group of people to come together, and then it becomes contagious. So again, on smaller scales and in other moments, there's been times where we check ourselves as a team and we feel like that doesn't fit our core values. That doesn't fit the way we're operating, and we're doing a better job now more than ever, because that's the goal, is to weed that out, is to cut it out, is to address it, right? Is to say, hey, listen, you deserve a second shot, but that's not how we operate, and that's not what we do. This is how we do it. Use your energy, put your twist on it, but this is the direction we go with it. We never take it in that way. And we're seeing that displayed more than ever in the examples, especially that you're speaking about, right?
Right. And that's one thing I'll attest to also, is everyone's got their own way of delivery and how they explain it. We all have the same message and the same idea of what we want to do per member, per client, but we all have our own different ways of speaking, going about it, and just your methods.
Yeah, 100%. So now, with a lot of that kind of natural growth inside the facility of being a leader, of being the go-to person at certain times and moments, or at all times and moments. Even for us, we go to you for a lot of things. I see it being expedited. I see now these other coaches that are coming in, they're the most fortunate coaches because they're not only getting a percentage of leadership from us, they're getting it from you. They're also getting it from Brian. They're getting it from Andrew. It just goes down all the way through, right? And again, I use those names, but everybody is a leader in their own way with specific things that we do inside the facility. But another role that you've stepped into more recently is, which was a little bit more forced because of a timing and a situation of someone else stepping out of that role, was managing and running and leading our supervised training program design and organization. So how do you feel? I think it's probably been it's short time, 3 months maybe?
Yeah, probably.
3 months or so right now.
3
How do you
months.
feel? Well, and this is, again, the camera's in front of us, but this is a great tool for the people to hear in real time what's really going on. What do you feel how you've helped it grow? What are some of your plans with it? What are some of your ideas with it, and how you could get better at it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a cool system. I always knew a little bit about it, but then I actually got to see it and see the full, full scope of it. And it's really exciting for me to get on there. And now I feel like I'm a part of everybody's program or membership
Journey,
in their own journey, right? But no, it's great. I mean, it's a smooth process. It's cool to interact. I'm getting more interaction with the team now and speaking about, again, certain situations of a program or certain things maybe we need to tweak a little bit, some things I can modify, and just kind of staying on people. Not in a breathing down their neck way, but just like just keeping everybody accountable and making sure we're all, getting everything we need to get done.
And part of why we created that system, and Franco was a very strong part of help building that through, but was to put another coach within our team in a position to, number one, help organize it, but also 1A was to force that connection with the team, right? To force that connection and growth with our team. So. That being said, in Matt, between you and I, what are some things that we've talked about of adding on to this process, or maybe going into the people understanding what Evan's actually overseeing and doing, and what service that's for,
Right, I like to say, obviously organizational and time management is a major part of that, but then it's also quality control and standard, constant being upheld, right? So it goes deeper than the organization, and time management side of it is extremely important because we take our service extremely serious, right? So when we say we're going to deliver something, we're going to deliver it. So everything's based upon time and delivery. So that's major. The other side is movement, quality control, substance control inside of that floor. What are people doing? How are they doing it? Why are they doing it? Really understanding the in-depths of the breakdown, right? And making sure that we're constantly putting people in position to be successful. So with that said, I think the things that we look to bring now more than ever into the mix is to have some meetings hosted with the team, not only like our team meeting that we do, which we kind of go over everything from just in-house procedures or structures changing to members coming in or coming out so that we're all on the same page, to any updates or changes that we may be making to our websites or social media, things of that nature. But then adding to that, to have a meeting that's just based upon movements and education and situational awareness. So I think that's the big thing that we're going to take next, because we do a lot of these throughout the action of our day. Our days are very busy and going and shifting and changing. So there's a lot of miniature conversations throughout the day for always. But I think it's going to be cool to add in. It's something we've spoken about over the years, and between the culture and the education and knowledge within our team now, it's going to be a cool way to all get together for an hour, and really just throw a couple things into the mix of, whether it be scenarios like, hey, I just had a client who was feeling this, this, and this, and that, or they were experiencing that or this during this time, and I either didn't know what to do, or I did this and this, and what does somebody else have to bring to the mix? Someone else could throw in, hey, maybe you should have done this too, or maybe, hey, maybe you shouldn't have done this because in the past I've seen this, or that happen. So I think what we're really trying to bring to the mix here is that communication and enhancement of culture and education amongst our team, so that we're all rocking out the same fashion and same way of making sure that we're upholding the standard from, like I said, time management to educational awareness and substance control, but then also situational awareness. I feel like that's its own separate thing in itself. So it's going to be cool to bring that into the mix and have you lead that up.
Yeah, it's a really cool thing to get into. I'm happy to be a part of it. I want to add to the time management part too, because now not only am I keeping the team accountable on their own programs, but I also have to be super accountable on myself. Because how am I going to tell you to get this program in at this date when I'm not doing it? So it's even heightened more for myself, and it keeps me in check, keeps me alive.
And that's a huge part of putting someone in a role of leadership that I've personally learned along the way is like a lot of times the question is, are they ready, right? No one is ever truly ready because they've never been in that position, right? So what I've learned along the way and from an early part in my life, specifically for me, I always resort back to, my competitive days on the baseball diamond. And even though it was high school ball, but still I was in a role of leadership there at a young age. And I learned that sometimes it's not about the person being ready to be in that position. It's about testing and seeing if they're ready to be in that position, right? So that's why I'm a huge believer of it's and it's Matt as well. He says this a lot. Like we don't just hand it off and that's it. Like you have to uphold it, right? You have to continue to uphold that and grow it, right? So if we don't see that being upheld, if we don't see that growth there's going to be a conversation. There's going to be us bringing our minds together and saying, hey, what could we do to build that up? We're at a point now where a couple months in, and I've seen that personally is Evan. Him being able to hold other people accountable is keeping him on his toes and reminding him to be accountable more and more. That's what happens. What do you think the last 10 years when Matt and I wake up every morning? We can't say, go in and open those doors at 6 a.m. when we don't open the doors at 6 a.m. We can't stay till 8 p.m. when we've never stayed in the facility till 8 p.m. But we knew we had to do all that for the bigger picture and for other people to be able to experience and learn if they could operate that way. Because the fact of the matter is, if we never showed that, you may right off the bat just say, why would I do that if you never did it, right? And it's not an eye for an eye. It's not about that. But when you're a leader, it is, So I think that's a huge thing. And in the first 3 months, we've seen immense growth towards it. And I'm excited to see now with some things we talked about early on, which we said in due time, we start implementing now. And for those members out there listening, those team members out there listening, be excited. Know that this is why we are where we are. We continue to stay innovative. We continue to grow. And we continue to switch things up in a positive way. And just bring new, fresh looks and ideas to people. As you can imagine, all of us are noting 100 things right now in our brains that we're going to put down on paper in our notes section when we sign off today. But it's exciting stuff. Another point that I wanted to bring up on the position that you're in is also it changes your view when you're also out on the floor. It changes. The challenging part is when you're put in a role of leadership is the way that people look at you, right? We always say to our team, especially when someone says, well, I told them that they got to meet my boss. I told them that they got to see my boss or my manager or the owner. No. There's a name. Your name's Evan Van Arsdale, right? You're going to meet with Coach. You're going to link up with Coach Evan, and he's going to help you find the solution of why your program wasn't there. It's not you're going to meet with Coach Evan, the lead of program design for our supervised training program, because he does this, this, and this, and then he's going to show you why. No, people want to know that you're the person to go to. They don't really want to know what the hell your title is or any of that stuff. They just want to know, Dan, he finds a solution. Yeah. So by default, he is the head of program design and the leader of it. So that's a beautiful thing that I've been able to watch and see too, and that we've been able to witness is that. So a lot of these coaches are going to you, and they're going to continue to do so more so. How do you feel on that front? How do you feel with that having that responsibility? Because that's different than just sending everything out and organization, right?
Yeah, that's more on the inside, the actual work that's going on inside the building instead of on the programs and Google and stuff. But the inside work is, again, it's a beautiful thing that I can have the team come to me now and be confident I'm going to give them something back. And again, we just spoke about this, but being like the problem solver, right? And being not only just for myself, like just to come to me for everything, but I also hope that after a while they'll be asking me, but eventually they'll start thinking that their own way about it.
Correct.
And that, again, goes back to what you said about everyone's kind of, following in my footsteps. And just as I did as you guys, they're following, and I did not have that organically. I built that and learned from you too. So as I come along, the problem solving is a big role now, but that's what I hope is that the team will begin to follow and do the same as I'm doing.
Love it.
Yeah, obviously we study a lot of leadership in all different ways, and I think Paul and I organically were doing a lot of things that now we do extremely intentionally in the beginning of the journey. And two things. Number one, he talks about putting yourself in a position and not necessarily anyone telling you that you're ready to be a leader. Like when we took the Goose in when he was 12 or 13 years old, like we weren't in no position to we were still figuring everything out. But the situation and scenario that presented itself made us feel like it was the right thing to do. But what it did day in and day out was it leveled us up, because every time, like from 7 a.m. till 7 p.m., the kid was with us all day. So like anytime you look over, he's just standing there looking up at you. So like it ultimately leveled up your standard because you knew that you were being watched. So I was going to deliver my product to the best of my ability. The second that I don't have something to do, I'm doing something productive for the movement. I'm cleaning, I'm organizing. So I'm showing those ways. So there was, I'm sure, multiple moments. I'm pretty motivated and self-driven myself as well, but at the same time, I'm sure there was moments that some days when I would finish up that first rush, I mean, there was times we used to hit the double rushes. It'd be like 6 to 12 and then like 2 to 8 all day, like going nonstop. So there'd be days midday where I just want to like sit there and do nothing, but I wouldn't, right? Because maybe if I was alone, maybe I would have, I don't know. But knowing that the young buck was standing right there, you finish up that last session, you wash up, you eat, you start organizing, you start cleaning, you start doing these things, and it embeds into him that there's always something to do, number one. And as a leader, you sometimes got to do a little bit extra. You got to always go above and beyond and know that that's okay.
That goes hand in hand with what I said before of us as leaders of the entire movement, right, from the top or in the forefront of everything. When we go home, there, like, and this is any one that's in the same position as us, that owns a business, that runs a business, that whatever you want to call it, right? Remember this, like, because there's a lot of people out there that don't remember this and that don't see this. They think because their name's on a building or their name's on a LLC and they have a business certification that they're good, right? But it could get away very fast. You could lose your team, you could lose your members, you could lose your community, you could lose your customers, whatever you want to call it. It could be recognized and the BS could be sniffed out real fast and it could go right off from under your feet. But the difference is in a true leader and someone that truly cares and has a passion and wants to work towards it is when they separate from it or when the change is made, they allow themselves to be held accountable, like Matt just said, right? So what Evan is doing is he's allowing himself to be held accountable. He's not fighting against it. He's not saying, no, I'm in this role now, so now I could get away and do these other things. I could send my programs in late. I could not write them up. I'll communicate with the member on my own. I don't have to let anyone else know, right? We could easily do the same thing, but we're not going to have the same success. We're not going to have the same sustainability, and it's not going to last as long, right?
I'm going to add to Matt what he said before too about just to go back to the time management and accountability, and also kind of accountability to myself. But younger, when I first started and learning about those little habitual things that you guys do and learning about the systems and stuff, I started with that just with like my homework and stuff. Like it was like, all right, I'm building discipline to go, okay, I'm going to get there. I would get to Relentless still. I'd go there, do that's the first thing that happens, and then I would go out about my thing and do, my tasks or go work out, whatever it may be. But those things were early on. I was exposed to it early. I wasn't very good at it in the beginning, but that's what you are for a lot of things, right? We all start not so good and you build on it, but as time went in, that's the biggest thing that helped me, is just repetition, doing it over and over again, and it becomes simpler. And now that's, for me, it changed from homework and working out to priming and building my schedule in the morning and just attacking my day and seeing what times I have things I run out and do, like just all around time management.
I got a great question for you, but I'm actually going to hold it off. I'm going to highlight a couple things on Matt and my end that I really want to let the people hear and listen to. But I got a little pressure-packed question for you that we're going to finish off with. But between you and I, Matt, like let's let let the people hear a little bit about what we've learned specifically from Evan, right? We talk about it that we've learned from them, but what are some moments along the journey that you said it before that helped you become a leader that you are today, not only for him but for other coaches?
Yeah, well, I think it's about allowing him to fail. I think, leadership, what I was going to say before is that the second thing I was going to say is leadership, as I study more and more, is like, you have to allow the failures, but you have to give the lessons. And I think if you don't, right? So if he makes a mistake and we get rid of him, then what? Then we got to bring somebody else in. They got to learn everything, and the mistakes are going to come, right? So I think the idea is that you must allow people to make mistakes, and I think we understand that now more than ever. But I think it's also a hard thing, right? Because the mistake can't be detrimental to the overall brand. That's going to bring us down, but it's got to be where you feel it, right? It's like you got to fall a little bit and scuff up your knees to know that you can't run like that. Or like, it's like watching and teaching our babies how to walk. Like, as much as I don't want her to fall, sometimes she has to fall, but then she gets up, we talk about it, and then she doesn't fall again. Like, she doesn't fall as often anymore because she's learning, right? And I think the big thing I think that we try to bring to the mix always is to be a coach and to be a leader and to give him those responsibilities and let him know that we trust and believe in his decisions, and we empower him with that. And we've, over the years/months closest to now, we have empowered him more than ever, because we need him to know that we trust and believe in his decisions, and we want him to make that game time decision now and then come back and tell us after, and we'll figure it out after, we'll reflect. But like, we need those, the more and more the leaders keep growing inside of the movement, it's leaders on leaders. That's what we are. Like, we are leaders leading leaders who are leading leaders inside of our community. Like, the people inside of our community are leaders who are coming for extra help from our team as leaders, and we must, at the top of leadership, keep constantly going out and challenging ourselves, making ourselves uncomfortable so that we can continue to grow through those experiences. And that's how we come back home and we give them out to everybody else. So I think a big thing through this relationship is that trust and belief in each other. Like, we're all okay with messing up or making mistakes, and then we talk about it and we're honest, and we all have egos too, and that's the thing. Like, we know how to work with our egos with each other for the bigger picture and the biggest cause of the brand.
I think the biggest thing for me, and it's on a similar wavelength, is the reminder that in moments he was a kid, right? But also that we're building him to be an adult, to be a man, right? Let's put it this way, that in moments that early on he was a boy, but he was so willing to become a man, and he was so willing to learn and grow. Yeah. So that was always the I think the most challenging part, but also the part that brought, to this point, has brought us and has brought him the most success. For me, that was the biggest lesson that I learned, was how to operate with someone and remember that I was in that position at one time, which was hard along the way because he did present himself so well and he did grow so fast on the end of how he displayed himself and just his core values and his respect and his demeanor, right? He that happened so fast that it was like, I felt like he went from being 17 years old to 28, you know what I mean? And not that age doesn't mean as much, but I'm just trying to give a picture of years, right? I felt like that, like 10 years of growth happened in months, in almost a year. But I had to always remind myself, and I still do to this day, to pull back. But the lessons that I learned of Evan being a kid has now been able to spill over to the other team members, right? And we always say a young coach, right? That means they're just young in their coaching career, and it can mean any age. But it reminded me to treat them as a coach in certain moments, and treat them inside the business, but blend that with the person that they are too, and treat them as a person as well, right? Yeah. And step back, because our competitive minds could get really red like a bull, right? We could see red really fast, and because we're looking out for the best interests of our clients and the service that we're delivering, right? But to remember that,
No, right. And with that said, I think Paul and I have such a standard, and we hold each other and ourselves in such a standard, and we are so competitive. So that has been an extremely challenging point, because we grew up competing together. Like, we know how to compete, right? Like, we're not going to be sweet and nice. We're going to play to win whatever we're playing. Like, if it's cornhole, if it's basketball, if it's football, it could be pool, it could be ping pong. Like, it doesn't matter. We've been competing since we're young, and we once we're on the court or the field or whatever it is, it's like, get the job done and conduct business.
Right.
It's shouting things out. It's not sweet. It's not nice. It's not so like. Number one, the whole world is a little bit on a different wavelength right now too. So as leaders, we like to kind of bring back a little bit of that old school, like toughen up your skin type deal. So it is actually really cool too to work with. A couple of our coaches are in that generation of being, whether it be like 19 to 20 or 24 in that wavelength, and that generation did not grow up the same way we did, right? So I think it's a tough thing sometimes because we have to always remind ourselves that like there's a little bit of a gap there. Yeah. But I think the cool thing is that they're all starting to get it, which is cool. Like, we just want to win, and like we want to make sure that like there's a reason why. This is another cool thing Paul recently spoke upon. We went with one of our coaches to inquire about another opportunity because we will turn over every rock and take up every opportunity, right? But it was cool because there was moments after reflecting, and that coach understood more than ever. You could just tell why that there's so many little things and nuances inside of the procedures that we've created because of the experience that people will get. So I think the more and more that we remember and remind ourselves that like we have to allow those experiences to happen. We have to be able to still be competitive, but deliver that message in a sense of like understanding that we could grow. Because now we could talk to Evan much differently. Like, we could be more direct with him. Like, back in the day, you know, we had to build it up a little bit. He's a young man. He's trying to do good. And you want to be, but we're competing. So it's like that sweet line to kind of walk. Now he's right there with us. He's at that level where we could just talk to him like the man that he wanted to be. Now he is, and only striving to get better. So I think it's a tough thing, but it's also a fun thing because we are competitive. So it's just another thing to compete on is like, how well can we lead our team that has all these different mindsets and different thoughts and all these different experiences that they've gone through already too.
Do you feel that as a coach / someone in a leadership role within the Relentless movement? Can you like resonate like similar to those, you know, what Matt's speaking on?
Yeah, I mean, as a coach and then as a man too in life, that relates very well. Something I wanted to highlight was competing, which you both said a lot. Coming in, I had no desire to compete. I was almost afraid of competing. But then you learn, and I see what it's about and how it really works. So now I'm in the competition of life. Now it's shifted to that, you know. So it's cool. I always thought competition was just sports, which I was never involved in. But then I get into this and I understand the full scope of what competition really is. But to answer your question, yes, yes, I do feel it in both ways, life and at work.
And I think we all understand very evenly here that we're competing to leave a legacy as a man, as who we are, the legacy that we leave, the leadership that we've left, the experiences that we gave, and how we've helped people become better. You know, and it started with us together, it started with us individually, and then it started with you, and then it started with us, and now it's just going to keep trickling down that line. And it's a beautiful thing because I think it shows what can be done to a human being when there's true dedication to each other, right? When Paul and I decided to dedicate ourselves to this kid, and this kid decided in his mind to dedicate himself to us, it's an amazing thing what has come out of it, right? And I think now more than ever, there's just like more belief and trust in it. So like the foundation and groundwork has been laid. Now what's going to come? I mean, think about it. This kid's 20 years old, okay? The foundation is extremely strong. So like the way that we've expedited the lessons and experiences that we've had to try to give to him those 10, 12 years that we have over him, that's just going to keep compounding forward now. So like that in itself is a huge win because like he said, like this is life. That's what the Relentless movement and the Relentless brand stands for, is life. It's legacy. It's the impact you leave to your most loved people around in your circle, you know? So I think we're on that right track, and I think we just have to keep doing what we're doing day in and day out and keep picking them up and giving him those experiences, allowing him to do those things, the same with everybody else around us and our team, you know?
So to leave the people off, you know, all our listeners, you know, we thank you again for obviously tuning in and constantly listening to all the perspectives that we're able to bring on this show. on the Relentless Way podcast. We talked about in episode 1 how we vow to have a guest on every single show to bring different perspective, because obviously it's great. I know everyone loves listening to Matt and I, but it's Matt and I love hearing other people's perspective because we are here to learn and grow too. So us sitting down in front of this camera and Mike putting these microphones on and bringing in all this content and all this awesome information and perspective helps us grow too, as we re-listen to them or as we have this 45-minute hour sit down and meeting with people. It's just growth on growth on growth. So speaking upon growth, the final question I want to leave, I know it's going to be some great perspective from Evan on. It's not as bad as the question as I thought. I just wanted to get you built up a little bit.
Yeah.
But it is definitely a transparent question that I want you to be open with and I want you to be honest about. What is the single moment right now that comes to your head, the single worst moment of your life that has taught you the most, and that's that chip that you carry every single day to keep you motivated?
This is a great question.
Whatever the single moment that pops to your head.
I think the first thing that I think about is before I came into Relentless, which was my parents splitting. Mm-hmm. I think that moment of feeling all those emotions that I felt that time, and then seeing how it happened, I just wanted to, at first I wanted to just get away and be out of that area and be out of that space and that energy, but it turned into me like somehow motivating myself to do something. Like I had a fire to do something and find like a self-worth and a purpose. Mm-hmm. That I don't know how that really tailed in or how that tied into it, but
it makes perfect sense.
It went from that to like I see this happen and I felt that, and it's like, okay, this is broken, what do I do? And I had so much downtime, I'm like, I gotta find something that I feel is giving me purpose in life.
Right.
Not that I felt like I didn't have much of a purpose, I just didn't know where I was going, I didn't have a direction. So getting in that early in life and being with you guys that early in life just took it took a huge turn in the right direction. Mm-hmm. So that's something that happened, and it just made me have a little fire in there of something like I got to do something and make this worthwhile.
When you reflect back now on that situation in that moment, how has it changed, and how do you think about it now? Because it's definitely different.
Yeah, 100%. I think when I was younger, and even for probably a few years, I looked at it as like it was always an emotion. It was angry.
Right.
It was like, why? I didn't understand why. Why did this happen? I could wrap my head around it, but now it's like I totally understand it. I have a great relationship on both ends now, and I speak to them about it all the time. It's like it's a normal thing now. We just recently spoke about it as the three of us.
Beautiful.
It was really nice. But we're all like, we're all very very similar minded, and we speak the same way. And I think talking about it was even better. It even heightened it more. Yeah. And I don't like push it down anymore. I just speak about it now, and I just talk.
In certain situations.
In certain situations when it's necessary. But yeah, I mean, it was something that just something switched in my brain and made me want to do something and just have a purpose,
And obviously appreciate the transparent answer and the perspective that you were just able to bring in that moment, and very well said too. Yeah. To bring it full circle and remind everyone that is the difference. Evan in those moments took the first step to establishing the relentless way in his life and the way he was going to operate moving forward, and he committed to that, and he continued to commit to that, and he continued to build on it and grow from being part of the movement to becoming a coach and a leader in the movement to being the movement, right? So, to leave everyone off, I think that in a nutshell wraps up this episode of the perspective that he's bringing. And certain people may say, like, why does it always have to come down to something like that? Because that's how we grow and we learn. The fact is that man that just rode by on the bike, the man that just walked by right there, the woman that was walking her dog, probably the odds are is that all three of them have been through the same, not the same exact, but pretty accurate situation, whether it is something with their parental figures or friends or whatever, relationship, whatever it may be, and they have similar emotions. And the odds are also that they didn't deal with it in a way that this 12, 13, 14-year-old boy did at that time, and to this day continued to deal with it that way. So if that could help someone, it's never too late. If that could help someone think about any moment and spark them to adopt their relentless way, then that'll be that. We thank everyone for tuning in and listening. If you have any questions, if you have any perspective that you want to bring to the table, anyone is welcome as a guest on the show. Just about anybody. So thank you again for tuning in. Matt, awesome job. Evan, thanks for giving us that positive perspective. And we'll see you episode 3, season 4 next week when you tune in. So we're checking out for today. Have a great day. Go get after it.
Let's keep getting it.